Hi, this is Medhat El-Masri. Today's video is about .NET Aspire and Semantic Kernel AI. A link to the companion article of this video is found at the bottom of this slide. What will we be doing? Well, we will delve into a practical application of the .NET Aspire Azure OpenAI client and Semantic Kernel. We will integrate Aspire.Azure.AI.OpenAI library into your projects. This library facilitates the registration of an OpenAI client within the dependency injection container, enabling seamless consumption of Azure OpenAI and OpenAI functionality. Of course, Aspire provides us with some comprehensive logging and telemetry. If you want to follow along, you need to have .NET 9.0 installed on your computer, together with Visual Studio Code, the .NET Aspire workload. You also will need the C# dev kit extension for VS Code. We'll start by cloning this GitHub repo that has a solution containing a Razor Pages application and a console application, both of which use OpenAI to connect to a large language model. Copy this GitHub repo and clone it on my local machine. It creates a folder called Aspire AI. I will go into that Aspire AI folder. Let's open our solution in VS Code. I have, of course, installed the C# dev kit. With the dev kit installed, you can have a look at your solution by clicking at this tab. And you can see here that you have a console application, a Razor Pages application, and you have an AI library. The only purpose that the AI library serves is that it's got a class called the helper class with just one static method that parses a connection string. So we have a method here called parse AI connection string, and it returns a tuple containing two objects. In the console AI and Razor Pages AI projects, each has an app-settings.json file, and of course we need to add our credentials for accessing OpenAI or Azure OpenAI in here. They both have a connection string. I will replace this part here with the service that I have and also the Azure OpenAI key. And for OpenAI, all you need is your OpenAI key. I will close this file and replace those values in this file and also this other file. This is the one to do with Razor Pages. After adding my credentials for accessing Azure OpenAI and or OpenAI, I can try these applications and see what they do. In both of these app-settings.json file, there is a setting called Azure or OpenAI. If you set it to Azure, it will go against your Azure subscription. If you set this to OpenAI, it will go to your OpenAI subscription. If you look at the folders that we have here, we have the console AI folder, the Razor Pages AI folder, and of course the library. So I'm going to go into the console AI folder and run the application with .NET run. You will see that a couple of requests are being made and answers are coming back. For example, the first question is, how many planets are there in our solar system? It comes up with the answer. If you look at the code for this console application, this is what it looks like. There are some set questions in a list. This list is being passed on to the AI, and the AI comes back with different answers. And the questions are, how many planets are there in our solar system? Which is the largest? Which is the smallest? Which is the closest? Which is the furthest? And why was Pluto removed from the list of planets? And these are, of course, all the answers. I will change the service from Azure to OpenAI by simply changing this to OpenAI. And if I run the application again, it should give me similar results, but this time it's going against the OpenAI service instead of Azure OpenAI. Now let's try the Razor Pages application. So I'm going to go back to the root folder and then move over to the Razor Pages application. And let me run this by doing .NET watch. This will open up in a browser. Note that here we're using Azure services, and I can ask the AI to answer any of these questions. For example, which is the smallest planet? And there it comes back. Let me change this from Azure to OpenAI services by simply changing this to OpenAI. I'll stop this application and rerun it. And this time around, it should be communicating with OpenAI services. I'll ask it a different question. Why was Pluto removed from the list of planets? And this is the answer. So we know that our application is working. Our mission is to get this to work in a .NET Aspire environment. In other words, we'll convert this solution into an Aspire solution. Let's stop the application and go back to the root folder. And in the root folder, we're going to add .NET Aspire to our solution. We will type in .NET new Aspire, and if we hit enter, we get an error saying that it wants to replace the Aspire.AI.SLN file, the solution file. So we have to use the switch -- force. And when we do that, we get a new solution file. You will notice that our solution file has only the app host and the service default projects, and we have lost the other 3 projects that existed before. So let us add them to the solution. And if you've got the C# dev kit extension in VS Code, you can quite easily do them from the user interface. I'm going to right click on the top node here and add existing project. At first, I'm going to grab the library and then also add the console application, and finally add the Razor Pages application. Now we're pretty much complete. There are a few references that we need to make between these various projects. From the app host project, we need to make a reference to the console application and to the Razor Pages application. And from the console AI project, we need to make a reference into the service defaults, and the same needs to be done from the Razor Pages AI application into the service defaults. So let's do the first 2 references. From app host into console AI and Razor Pages AI. So I'm going to right click on app host and add a project reference into console AI, and then again add project reference into the Razor Pages AI. The next part is from console AI and Razor Pages AI, we need to make a reference into the service defaults project. So I'm going to come here and add a project reference into service defaults, and do the same from the Razor Pages project, add a reference into service defaults. These are all the references we need to make. There are some packages that need to be added to the client applications, and by that I mean we need to add this package, and at the moment it's in pre-release, Aspire.Azure.AI.OpenAI, and they should be added to the console application and the Razor Pages application. This pair of commands, if you run them from the root folder, will add those packages to the 2 projects. Let's just check. So if I go to the Razor Pages AI, I can see that this package has been added here. And if I go to the console AI, and it has also been added here. To add Azure hosting support to your iDistributed application builder, we need to install a package Aspire.Hosting.Azure.Cognitive Services, which is this package, and we're going to add it to the app host project. So if you execute this command from inside of the root folder, it will add it to the app host project. So let's do that. Copy this and come down here and paste it. There it goes, it adds it. And just to make sure, we can go into this project, and sure enough, it added it to the app host project. We can now copy the access credentials to the app settings belonging to app host. You can do so by copying over the AI and connection strings blocks from the app settings of the console application or the Razor Pages application. And of course, you have to put the proper credentials here. Note that when we start our app host project, the Aspire capability will transfer these environment variables from the app host into the respective client applications. We will start with the app host project. So I'm going to go into the program.cs belonging to app host. And here we need to identify and add the various projects that we want to be part of the .NET Aspire orchestration. To start with, we need to read some environment variables from the app settings.json. With this, we're going to read the Azure or OpenAI settings, which is this one, and this indicates whether we want to use OpenAI or Azure. We will read also the Azure chat deployment name, which would be this one, and also the OpenAI chat model. This reads those respective variables. The next thing we want to do is declare the OpenAI variable, and it is of this type. Now, depending upon whether we want to use Azure or OpenAI, we will add the following code. If this variable returns Azure, we will add the Azure OpenAI service and this connection string, which is the Azure OpenAI connection string. If we're using OpenAI, then we will connect to this add Azure OpenAI service. In all cases, this argument here is the connection string. If we go back to our app settings, we have a connection string for Azure OpenAI and another one simply for OpenAI. This orchestrated for us the presence of OpenAI in our entire solution. The next thing we want to do is add a reference to the Razor Pages project. So here we'd say builder add project, and the name of our project is Razor Pages AI. Notice that we want to reference OpenAI. So we'd add this reference. We want to pass the Azure chat deployment name, the Azure or OpenAI environment variable, and the OpenAI chat model. The next project that we want to orchestrate is the console application. So we can add this code here to register the console application in our orchestration, and this also needs to be aware of the OpenAI service, and again we pass the same environment variables down to the console AI project. We're done with all the connections that we need to make in the app host. The next thing we want to do is a couple of changes to our console and Razor Pages application. Let's start with the Razor Pages application. We're going to add an Aspire agent by simply adding this code. We have this if-else statement. We will comment this out and replace it with another if statement that is going to use the OpenAI client and semantic kernel. This is the code all of that will be replaced with. If we're using OpenAI, we're going to add OpenAI client and connect it to semantic kernel in this manner. And the only difference here is, of course, the connection string for OpenAI would be this, and also the model that we'll be using with OpenAI is this one here. If we're using Azure, we need a different connection string for Azure, and we're going to connect to a different chat AI chat completion service. We now turn our attention to the console app. So let's open program.cs in the console app. And just like we did before, we need to add an agent here as well. We need to get a host application that we can add the agent to. So this we can do by adding this code underneath the using statements. And of course, we need to resolve this host object. So inside of the console application, we will also comment out this if-else statement. We're going to replace the commented out code with the following code like this. And here we're getting a handle to the OpenAI client depending upon whether we're using Azure or OpenAI. And of course, we need to resolve this object. We do not need this code where we get a kernel from the builder, because this is available in the DI container. So I'm going to comment this out and get a handle to the kernel from the DI container with this code here. Finally, I can start my app by adding this code here, and the rest remains the same. Let's try out our application and see if it works. So back in the terminal window, I will go into the app host project and do a .NET watch here. This means that I can start my orchestration from one location, only from the app host. It asks you for a token, and you can copy the token from the terminal window, copy it and paste it here. You can see now that we have two projects that have been orchestrated. Let us start with the console application. If I click on console here and look at the environment variables that are being passed, you will see that our OpenAI chat model is being passed. I can view the contents. The deployment name is being passed. Azure or OpenAI environment variable is being passed. And at the moment it is set to OpenAI. The connection string also is being passed. Let me look at the console. So I can go to the console here and look at this window, and you can see that this has successfully executed. Let's go back to the dashboard and click on this Razor Pages project, and let me ask it a question. I'll copy one of these, paste it here, and we get an answer. But something is not right at this point. What's not right is that in both cases, the environment variables are being read from the respective app settings.json file. Let's look at the console application. For example, over here, I have these settings still there. I should delete them so that the environment variables, they come directly from the app host project. So I will do that. Now, if you look at the console application, the app settings in the console application, it has nothing. And the app settings.json in the Razor Pages application also doesn't have those AI related settings. Let me stop the app and run it again with .NET Watch. And this time we know for sure that the environment variables are coming through from app host. If we try it again and it works, then we know that our efforts have borne fruit. Let's check the console application to see if it works. So we can go to console and choose the console application, and you can see that it has executed successfully. It gets the environment variables from the app host. Let's do a similar test by going to the Razor Pages app, clicking on the link here, and asking one of the questions, what is the closest planet to Earth? Submit, and it works. There are some improvements that we can make to our solution. Let's go to the console applications program.cs, and you will see here that we are using the configuration builder to give us a config object, which will enable us to read from the app settings. This is not necessary because we can get a config object from the host builder. So what I'm going to do here is comment out this, and instead of getting the config object from the configuration builder, I can get it from the host builder with this line of code. If you go to the CSproj file belonging to the console application, you will notice that we are using a package, Microsoft Extensions Configuration JSON. That is the package that's associated with this configuration builder. Since we're not using the configuration builder, I can pretty much delete this. And now let's just make sure that we haven't broken anything. So I'm going to stop the app and run it again. And here it is, it's loading, and we made a change to the console application, so we can click on the console by going under logs view here, and you can see that it is running without any problems. I hope you found this video useful, and if you did, please give it the thumbs up. Thank you, and see you in the next video.